Catherine the Great. According to William Richardson, a British visitor to the court in the late 1760s, the late 30-something empress made an impression. The Empress of Russia is taller than the middle size, very comely, gracefully formed, but inclined to grow corpulent, as of a fair complexion, which, like every other female in this country, she endeavours to improve by the addition of rouge. She has a fine mouth and teeth, and blue eyes, expressive of scrutiny, something not so good as observation, and not so bad as suspicion. Her features are in general regular and pleasing indeed. With regard to her appearance altogether, it would be doing her injustice to say it was masculine, yet it would not be doing her justice to say it was entirely feminine. Marie Antoinette. After first meeting Marie Antoinette shortly after her arrival in France in 1770, her personal hairdresser said, Marie Antoinette was then neither beautiful, pretty, nor attractive. There were only promises of beauty in her. Her figure well set, slender, but disparaged by an extreme thinness, still lacked grace, without, however, being disfigured by that Austrian stiffness which Her Highness had fortunately left behind. The hair of the daughter of Maria Theresa, which was then a pale blonde, seemed to me very badly arranged. Her eyes were azure blue, with a quick, witty but somewhat bold expression. She had a high forehead, a nose of too pronounced shape, a small mouth, thick lips, but of great freshness, a complexion of dazzling whiteness, and set off by natural but rather high colour. She carried her head high. There was haughtiness in her manner, but a haughtiness tempered by a sweetness of countenance and tone which captivated at the very moment when one was about to feel offended at the pride which this kindness successfully belied. Eleanor of Aquitaine. According to Bernard de Ventier, Eleanor was gracious, lovely, the embodiment of charm. She also possessed lovely eyes and a notable countenance, as befits a queen. Lackland said Eleanor had a dark complexion and a curvaceous figure that never ran to fat, even in old age. Douglas Boyd said her face was humorous and alert, framed by long auburn hair flowing freely from beneath the coronet. Her eyes were green and fearless. Marion Mead said Eleanor, exceptionally beautiful at 15, had matured into a hot-blooded damsel, her nose straight, her skin white, and a long slender neck. Henry VIII. In 1519, the ambassador of Venice said, above the usual height, with an extremely fine calf to his leg, his complexion fair and bright, with auburn hair combed straight and short in the French fashion, his throat being rather long and thick. He was born on the 28th of June, 1491, so he will enter his 25th year, the month after next. Another ambassador wrote, the 29-year-old king is much handsomer than any other sovereign in Christendom, a great deal handsomer than the King of France, very fair, and his whole frame admirably proportioned. On hearing that Francis of France wore a beard, he allowed his own to grow. He now has a beard reddish that glimmers gold. The Ottoman Sultan Muhammad II, a diplomat, wrote, "The sovereign, the Grand Turk Muhammad Bey, is a young man of 26 years of age, well-formed and of a stature rather above than average. His appearance inspires fear rather than respect. He laughs rarely, is cautious in his judgment, and is endowed with great generosity. He aspires to equal the glory of Alexander the Great, and every day his histories of Rome and other nations are read to him." Catherine of Aragon. She was described as the most beautiful creature in the world, having long auburn hair, bright blue eyes, and a cherubic face. Thomas More said there were few women who could compete with the Queen in her prime. Anne Boleyn, a diplomat, wrote, "Madame Anne is not one of the handsomest women in the world. She is of middling stature, swarthy complexion, long neck, wide mouth, bosom not much raised, and in fact has nothing but the English king's great appetite, and her eyes, which are black and beautiful, and take great effect." Jane Seymour. Eustace Chapuis, the Spanish ambassador, described Jane of middling stature and no great beauty, with a pale complexion, large nose, small eyes, and compressed lips. Anne of Cleves. Anne's portrait by Hans Holbein the Younger is often said to have made Anne look more attractive than she really was. This is probably not true. The French ambassador described her as tall, slim, and had a dignified and queenly manner, of middling beauty, and a very assured and resolute countenance. Edward Hall said, her hair hanging down, which was fair yellow and long. She was dressed after the English fashion, with a French hood, which so set forth her beauty and good visage that every creature rejoiced to behold her. She appeared rather solemn by English standards, and looked a little older than her age, with a high forehead, heavy-lidded eyes, and a slightly pointed chin. Catherine Howard. The French ambassador said, "I thought her delightful, a young auburn-haired girl, with a hooked Howard nose, the beginning of a double chin, light bright eyes, and gentle earnest face." Catherine Parr. She was described as tall. She was 5 feet 10 inches. The average height for a woman at this time was approximately 5 feet. She had light reddish gold hair and hazel eyes. She was described in 1544 as, "She is of lively and pleasing appearance, and is praised as a virtuous woman." Elizabeth, Sissy of Austria. According to an American official in Vienna, the Empress was a miracle of beauty, tall and slender, with a wonderfully lovely figure, an abundance of light brown hair, a low Grecian forehead, soft eyes, very red natural lips, and a sweet smile. The Venetian Minister of Police said, "That amazing beauty of Empress Elizabeth draws many people to the court who would otherwise stay away." Mary, Queen of Scots. A diplomat from Venice said that the Queen was personally the most beautiful in Europe, a striking woman who knows how to present an eye-catching and regal appearance. Extremely tall, beautiful and graceful, with auburn hair and a fine pale skin. Mary's height was 6 feet. Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. Sancho Corta described the new 16-year-old Spanish king as, he was of medium height with a long face, blonde hair, beautiful light blue eyes, a narrow, well-proportioned nose, his mouth and chin not as beautiful as his other features. He was a graceful man in very good shape, eating and drinking in measured fashion, very clever for his years, liberal, magnificent, and very virtuous. Richard III. In May 1484, he was described as 3 fingers taller than myself, but a little slimmer and not so solid, also far leaner. He had delicate arms, legs, and also a great heart. Elizabeth I. Described as tall and striking, with freckled, pale skin, hair a golden red, eyes dark brown, her nose ridgeless in the middle, her lips rather thin and cheekbones pronounced. In 1557, the Venetian ambassador said, her face is comely rather than handsome, but she is tall and well-formed, with good skin, though swarthy. She has fine eyes and long hands. In the 1590s, a German lawyer said the 65-year-old monarch still appeared very majestic, her face oblong, fair but wrinkled, her eyes small, yet black and pleasant, her nose a little hooked, her lips narrow, and her teeth black, a defect the English seem subject to suffer from their great use of sugar. She had in her ears 2 pearls with very rich drops. She wore false hair. She had a small crown, reported to be made of the celebrated Lundberg table. Her bosom was uncovered, as all the English ladies have it, till they marry, and she had a necklace of exceedingly fine jewels. Her hands were small, her fingers long, and her stature neither tall nor low. Her air was stately, her manner of speaking mild and obliging. Ivan the Terrible. In the 1570s, the Austrian ambassador wrote, he is very tall, his body is full of strength and quite thick. The large eyes that constantly run around him are watching carefully. His beard is red with a slight shade of blackness, quite long and thick, but the hair on his head, like most Russians, he shaves with a razor. The husband of Ivan's daughter said Tsar Ivan was ugly in his appearance. His nose was long and sloppy, tall, lean. He was at the same time broad-shouldered and muscular. Emperor Akbar I, a Jesuit missionary to Akbar's court in the 1580s, said, the king is of good stature, sturdy of body, arms and legs, broad-shouldered. The configuration of his face is ordinary and does not reflect the grandeur and dignity of the person. Despite being Chinese-like, it is lean, sparse of beard, wrinkled, and not very fair. The eyes are small, extremely vivid, and they also reveal sharpness of mind and keenness of intellect. Queen Isabella of Castile, as described in the 1470s when she was in her mid-20s. This queen was of medium height, well put together in her person and the proportion of her limbs. Very pale and blonde, the eyes were between green and blue. Her look is honest and graceful, her features well arranged, and her face beautiful and full of joy. She was very measured in her bodily movements. She didn't drink wine. She was a very good woman who liked to be surrounded by good elderly women of fine lineage. Theodoric the Second. In a letter from 454, the Roman diplomat was described as, "He is well set up in height, above average man, but below the giant. His head is round with curled hair retaining somewhat from brow to crown. His nervous neck is free from disfiguring knots. The eyebrows are bushy and arched. When the lids droop, the lashes reach almost halfway down the cheeks." Cleopatra, described as mid-height, her body curves, her face framed by ringlets of curly hair, and the rest of her hair arranged in a melon style, divided into segments that run down the ribs of the melon from the forehead back and gathered into a bun behind her head, her eyes dark, seductive, and almond-shaped. And this concludes the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please click the like button, give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe for future videos. Thank you.